The name of that song is the title cut from the new album by Sugaray Rayford called "Somebody Save Me." And Sugar Ray is here with us today on the Friday Afternoon Music Mix as our special guest. Welcome, Sugar Ray, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you, Gregory. I really appreciate you having me. So it's nice to be had.
That's great. I received your new CD, which, by the way, has received tremendous accolades, and I wholeheartedly agree with all of them. It was nominated for a Grammy for Best Contemporary Blues Album, and you yourself have had some great honors this year: BB King Entertainer of the Year and Soul's Blues Artist of the Year. This up until COVID, this was a good year.
Yeah, I that's kind of. I mean, and that's the theme of it. For me, it's like and on top of that, I'm there's some other accolades, but on top of that, I also got picked up by the what is the third largest booking agency in the world. And my new manager, I have a new manager. My first time actually having a manager beside my wife, and she basically only manages George Benson and myself. So I mean, literally everything's lined up, and then COVID.
what what a good peer to be lined up with, George Benson. It's
Yeah,
terrific. That's
I feel
terrific.
good like to even be able to put that name next to mine.
That's great. And also, I want to mention that you've got a very, very poignant new single out called "Homemade Disaster,"
Yeah,
which I really have enjoyed. And I want to talk a little bit about you and your music. I know that you were born in Texas
yeah,
and had kind of a rough growing up, from what I read. Your mother was ill, died of cancer when you were young, and three siblings,
yes.
and raised by your grandmother, who kind of influenced you in gospel music.
Yeah, I mean, my grandmother was always, as far as I can remember, a very devout, holy woman, holiness Christian church, Church of God in Christ, which is the holiness church, Pentecostal on steroids. I always tell people. Uh, but my mother came up through that. Also, she was a great singer and whatnot. But because of the how do you put that? It's like some people are too young to have children. They're not ready to settle to have children. So on top of the cancer, we had a very young mother who's still trying to be a young woman and have be a mother, which is sometimes especially back then a tough thing to do. But my salvation was always my grandmother. So my mother would literally sometimes drop me off where I was supposed to be there for a day or two, and I wound up being there a couple years. So
I see.
basically,
I
yeah,
see.
I was just kind of dropped. And my grandmother, who I've always actually called Mama, we call her Big Mama down south in East Texas, and it doesn't mean because she's fat. I always have to explain that to people. You call your grandmother Big Mama because she's your mama's mama. She's the Big Mama. She's the CEO, and your mama is the VP. That's the way it works. So that's what Big Mama means, And then her mother, your grandmother's mother, which I had also had the pleasure of being babysit by and getting to see is Medea or Mother Dear. So yeah, Medea, Big Mama, Mama. That's the way it works in East Texas, Louisiana, that part of town. Like that. So
Obviously.
yeah, so my grandmother was always church, and so I really loved it because uh, my mother was probably the greatest singer I've ever heard. So I think that I was born with the love of music in me. So when I heard all these great gospel musicians and singers, because being with my grandmother, you were going to church. It wasn't in the question or a debate. You knew that when you went that they were Big Mama, you going to church. So, which I didn't really have a problem with because I said the music part of it, even more so than the spiritual part, the music was just amazing, and that was my introduction. I think when I was like 5 or 6 when I started playing drums, but I was like I think 5 years old when I joined what's called the Sunshine Band, which is like little kid band, a choir. And so from that point to this point, that's been my influence and what magnetized me to music.
And about 15 years ago, you migrated from Texas to California.
No,
And
I don't know where they got that.
well, I read that. Yeah.
I know someone wrote that. I came to Texas. I left Texas when I was 18 and
Uh-huh.
joined the United States Marine Corps.
Oh,
That
you
was
did.
That was 1986. So I've been in California for almost 30 some odd years. So
I
I
see.
came out here in '86. The Marine Corps always shipped you around, but whenever they got done, they always sent me back to Southern California. So I left Texas at the age of 18 and came out to California at 18 years old as a United States Marine, and
I
did 10 years in the Marine Corps. And but I have been in California ever since then.
I see. At that point, you, eventually migrated into a band called Aunt Kizzy's Boys and re
Yeah, AKB.
and released a
Yeah.
very popular album called Trunk Full of Blues.
All right on. Yeah, AKB. You know what's funny is I had been out of music for 18 years, 19 years. Just then from the time I left 18 up until when I met my now wife. I didn't do it. I didn't play music. There was no future in it. And I'm an old Southern guy, and you had to get out there and earn your keep. And this is the way I was raised. And so I've been doing that. I've been a Marine. I've been raising my son with my ex girlfriend, my living girlfriend at that time, and I was working 3 jobs. And one of the jobs is I own my own like bodyguard business, and so we were doing a nightclub. So I was doing this club in Carlsbad, California, called Boer Crossing, and that must have been 93, 90. It must have been like a year or so after I got out. And they were doing live. They had live rock bands, and I was the cooler slash the bouncer. And it was a really peculiar thing because Carlsbad is a very ritzy area, but you're literally 10 miles from the second largest Marine Corps base in the world, Camp Pendleton. So
Right,
you got Camp Pendleton right here. You have the ritzy Carlsbad right here, and then in between that, you have the valley area, Escondido, blah blah blah, and you have the Hells Angels and the Mongols there. So they will all meet up. So this club, at any given time, I'd have 30 Marines, 20, 30 Hells Angels slash whatever, and then all these socialites. I mean, Jerry Buss used to come in there, Farrah Fawcett. It was weird. I threw out a guy one night. I threw out a guy wearing flip flops and jeans one night. He looked like a bum to me. Come to find out later, as I was reprimanded by the owner, but he was causing a problem. I can't remember his first name, but he was the guy that owned and started Vans, the shoes. So this the kind of weird clientele you had. It was a very strange smattering of people. So not to make too much time. So you would have these young Marines that haven't seen a woman in 4 months, and you know how the biker girls are dressed. Yeah, Hells Angel biker girls, and then socialites. So usually about 10 o'clock, it got rowdy. You ever seen the movie Roadhouse?
I did. I
Well,
love it.
that was actually my life. I was a cooler for a long
And,
time.
you we should point out that at 6 feet 5 inches tall, you were well suited to be a bodyguard too.
Yeah, but more than anything is it's your attitude. Like I always try to treat people with as much respect as I could, and
Right,
and I had this famous line, as I'm because my job as a cooler bouncer in the bodyguard world is a little different. As a cooler bouncer side, my job is to make sure that whatever happens, it happens outside of the venue. That's your
right,
job to
right.
keep the damage down, both legally as well as physically. And
Physically.
whatever happens, your job is to get them outside those doors. You know, and
Faster.
the fastest, yeah, or with the least amount of damage, the least amount of everything. And so, I used to always tell people I was very kind to people, and until you get to that point where I was like, listen, I'm trying to treat you respect because that's my line. Because if I put my hands on you, I'm gonna put my hands on you to hurt you because that means that you're gonna try to hurt me. I'd much rather you walk to the door so that please, because I really don't want to. But as a Marine, as a bouncer, I know that once we get to a point where we're laying hands on each other, all that's out the window. It's now I want to make sure that I go home with the minimum amount of injuries that I can. You want to make sure you go with the minimum amount of injuries you can. So how about we avoid that? And,
That's
and we both like gentlemen or whatever and walk to the door.
right.
So it worked most of the time, but there was quite a few times where you just had to yeah.
I can
That was the whole
imagine.
thing.
Well, so what brought you back into music then?
I said all that to say this bar, live music. At this time, I had met my now wife, who was a friend. We were getting close, but she was just a friend. And Um, one night, this rock band is in there, great rock band. I don't remember their name, but they're doing covers. And the lead singer is trying to impress all the cute girls. And so he's doing some. I always call them vocal gymnastics. He's doing his vocal gymnastics, whatever. But the rock version. Singing
Yeah.
nine octaves up to the screams and and I think from my understanding, he was trying to impress the girls or something. And basically, as I walked by, he basically handed the mic in my chest like beat that or something. And I don't know what that was about because it was me from Adam. But I'm an old school singer, come out of the church, and so we learned that whether you know the song or not, you find something to work.
Yeah.
A melody is a melody is a melody.
Right.
So it had probably been 17, 18 years since I sang, but I grabbed it and went an octave above where he was, and I wasn't really saying the words. I was just singing and along with the melody. Handed the mic back to him, walked around, and people were looking at me because they've known me for 2 or 3 years as this the jolly black giant, as I call my son. And so at that time, my wife was now my wife. She later on she said, "You need to sing," and I literally looked her right in the eyes and "You can't make a living doing that." And no, no, but she never gave up. And then once we became a couple, and we had an avocado ranch, so I was an avocado farmer for a long time there. She kept pushing, and finally, we started a little group with some of the people I met at that club called the Urban Gypsies, and we were doing covers, soul R&B covers. And we quickly became one of the top corporate bands in the San Diego area.
Hmm.
And I did that for a while. And I remember the Belly Up Tavern, which is like one of the biggest venues in Southern California. We wound up getting our own night every Thursday night at the Belly Up Tavern. The funny thing was, the day that we were going to start our run is at our own night at this 800-seat venue. The day we're starting was September the 12th,
Really?
the day after 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, like, two people showed up, and we were just standing there, like, "Oh my God," talking about luck, And anyway, but I did that for a while, but I got tired of doing cover songs, R&B songs and stuff, and trying to sound like other people.
Right.
And I wasn't making any money on it, and I had a 5-acre avocado ranch, and so again, I walked away from music and went and just tended my avocados. That lasted for about 2 months, and my wife had gone online and found some jams in the local area, and so we were in this little town called Temecula, California,
Yeah.
and she found this jam, and she made me go to this jam. So I walk in, and there's a guy named Jimmy King on guitar, and Dwayne Hathaway on drums, and a bunch of other people. And so I signed up, and somebody in the audience knew me from the soul world, and they're like, "Man, that's Sugaray Rayford, let's get him up." And I remember Dwayne Hathaway and Jimmy King were like, "Well, who is Sugaray Rayford? We don't know this guy." Blah 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 blah. And I didn't put on any airs. I'm like, I'm signing up like everybody else. But they brought me up, and I remember Jimmy's like, "Well, what key we doing here?" And I said, "I don't care what key, just pick a key." And look at the drummer, and they said, "Well, what do you want?" And I was like, let's jump this thing." And the drummer's like, "Aye, aye." And so we started off, and I didn't know a lot of blues songs, but we started off. It went over really well. I came back the next week, and Jimmy had brought in some other people from the band, and then probably the week after that, they invited me to come up to this big jazz festival in the city of Julian. I think it was Julian. Julian Arts Jazz Festival, a big festival, and big names, and they were playing. And I remember being so nervous because we doing blues, and there were a lot of black people there. And the reason why I say nervous is because black people traditionally, like where I'm from, in the South, and pretty much all black people, they let you know what they think. Especially when it comes to music.
Yeah.
We used to say in church, the old church systems, they were nice, but they would cut you. And the way they would cut you, they walk up to you, you doing something that wasn't right. I've heard them walk up to something like, "Baby, not everybody's meant to be the drummer. Some people was born to be the usher." That's that's a nice way of telling you, but to the point. You know, you ain't got it. It's like the old Dublin. double entendre that the old black sisters used to use, like, "Oh, well, bless your little heart." Well, if you from down south, if you're not from down south, people know now, but for years people didn't know. That was a backward comment, like, well, bless your little heart. Well, that wasn't a good thing. When you heard that, that was actually a bad. That was a nice way of saying something. Anyway, but I was freaked out, and the show went over well. And then after that, probably within, let me just say that within 6 months of meeting Jimmy and Dwayne, within 6 months, I was in the band and we had recorded Trunk Full of Blues. By the 11th month, we'd gone down to Memphis. We had won the regional thing in San Diego in our area, and we'd gone to Memphis to represent Southern California at the IBC, which we took second place in that short period of time. We always felt like we'd been robbed, so we didn't even go do stupid. That's how young we were. We didn't even go do the gigs that you get with the thing. But at that time, we was already touring. We was already playing maybe 150, 200 shows a year because we were doing the new chitlin circuit. We were playing like 11 casinos. So, we were doing, 3 a days and 5 a days in the casinos, in the area of California. So
Yeah.
and I don't know if you know how the casino gigs went when you're not a big name. So, you go in there, you play 4 or 5 hour shows, 45 minutes, 15-minute break, 45 minutes, 15 minutes,
Wow.
and you was doing that 7 days a week, and so that's what we were doing,
Yeah.
which which makes the band unbelievably strong, unbelievably tight, uh, and with that many shows on their belts in such a short period of time, we knew each other better than I knew every pimple on Dwayne's button. He knew every pimple on the back of my head. And, you know what I mean.
I
So
do.
you'll be on tight,
Yeah.
uh, and that's how that happened. And it just happened so fast. It just kind of blew up, and that's how I became a member of Unkiss's Boys.
That's great. And then in 2010, you started your solo career with your own band, Sugaray
Well,
Rayford.
again, you got to remember that in between there, I had built a house. We had the ranch. We had the great, they say recession. I call it depression in America.
Right.
When everything went down like 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009. And
Yeah.
at the time, it was so weird. Is I'm giving up my ranch. I wind up doing a short sale on the ranch because my bills wind up being like $10,000 a month. I can pay the bills, but I can't do anything else.
Right.
So like I can pay these bills and just sit here in this house. But at the same time, and Kizzy's Boys, we were having our first European tour. We were on
Uh-huh.
our way to France. So I'm flying to France. I have no idea what's happening to my house, what's going on. The market is going crazy. We're in France. A while long. But what's so poignant in my mind is I always remember. But at the same time, my wife, who had a private practice, closed her private practice and had took a position at Cedar Sinai in Beverly Hills. We land from France back at LAX, and I don't know how to put it jubilantly or eloquently, but basically, when we landed from France back at LAX, at that particular moment in time, once we touched ground, my wife and I were homeless. We had no home.
Wow.
We're in LA. I know one guy in LA. His name Chuck Boris, the guy who had produced the album for Aunt Kizzy's Boys. Uh, we wind up, my wife and I, thank God, we had money, but we were homeless. We lived in a Bonaventure, I think 3.5, 4 months. That's where I lived. That's where I was.
Yeah.
And I was really depressed and whatnot. And my wife, as always, uh, slapped
What
me
an
across the head. Yeah, she's good. She is. She
yeah.
slapped me across the head. She slapped me across the head, went on the computer. She found this blues jam in a place called Cozy's. And like, go here because I don't want you being sitting here all day and blah blah blah. So I went to Cozy's and signed up on the list as always. And a guy named John Marks was running the jam, had been running it for a long time, and they didn't call me up. So I stayed all night. No one called me up. Again, I'm in LA. Nobody knows me from a gnat on the wall.
Right.
You know how LA is.
Oh, yeah.
And I came back the second week. They did every Monday, and it wasn't as busy that week. And so they finally called me up. So they called me up, and I do me, and I had a good time with the 10, 12 people that's in there. I leave, and that was a Monday. I get a phone call from Stephen Riccozzi, I think that Friday or that Saturday, the owner of Cozy's. And he said, listen, I got video of everything that happened the other night. and I really like what you did, and uh, we want you to come run the jam. And I'm like, well, you got a guy running the jam. He's been running the jam for 50, 60 years. He's well known. John Marks in LA and blah blah. And like, well, we've already talked to John. It's time for some new blood, and we want to get you in, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay. At the time, I mean, I said I didn't want to come in and cause any problems, but I was like, yeah, I'll do it because I'm just sitting in this hotel twiddling my thumbs every day. So we go down to do that, and they hadn't told John Marks. They hadn't told him that that was all cap.
Wow.
And all of a sudden I show up and and I'm like, wow, welcome to LA.
Yeah.
Welcome to LA. This is the way
Yeah.
it works here. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, and I always wanted to tell John, I did get to talk to him very many times. I said, John, I did not come here to steal your gig. I don't know anyone. I did not come to LA to make waves because I know it's cliquish and I don't want no one thinking that raised here to steal. I did not. That was on them. They told me this. And I brought Aunt Kizzy's boys in the first month because I didn't know any musicians in LA to
Yeah.
back me up. Those guys, bless their heart, bless their soul. They drove all the way from Southern California every Monday for $25 a person, you know,
Incredible.
and backed me up for the jam to be the house band. And then one night, Chuck Cavoris, like I said, the guy that produced our album came in like, man, Aunt Kizzy's boys is good, but you need these guys and that guy. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, all right, man. So him and Harv with me for about a couple weeks, and finally, I said, all right, Chuck, I'm gonna let you book the band. I said, but Aunt Kizzy has got my back, and so I say, so the first time I show up without a band, that's it. I'm going back to Aunt Kizzy's boy because the deal was Chuck like, let me be your MD, and I will bring cats in to play with you to be the house band every week because I know a lot of people, and I like to change the house band up every week so it's something fresh. I'm like, I don't know anybody in LA but Chuck. So I said, okay. Well, within within a month, within 30 days, Cozy's became the place to be if you was into the blues, R&B, soul uh, in LA. So
What a
uh,
story.
I wind up having people like Slash, Steve Lukather, Vivian Campbell, Gary Malabar, Mike Finnegan, Alvino, you name it, they're all were part of the band. Some of the greatest guys. It's also where I met Al Cooper. Was there?
Oh,
It's
you
where I
did?
met. It's where I met Jimmy Vivino. It's where I met Honey Boy Edwards at my jam. Hubert Sumlin, Bill Chaplin, just on. And then we start getting the celebrities. So I would look up and Faison Love is right there, and Bobby Brown is over here, and there's Raphael Sadiq. We would get the Pussycat Dolls. We would have. I met the guys from Lifehouse who wound up being in those guys who wound up being friends of mine, and all these big name actors and whatnot. They were all coming to this little place that only holds about 90 people. 100, 100 if you really push. Uh, Monday nights blues jam, and I used to tell everybody. And the great thing because I didn't know anyone, so I treated everyone the same. So I was like, you can play whatever you want to play as long as whatever you play it be the blues. So it was one night I guess Slash was there, and I didn't even recognize him. I had played with him once, set in with him once years and years ago in New Orleans, but he had changed a little bit. I didn't know who he was, and so after that one Monday night, Chuck come up to me like, Ray, Slash was upset because Chuck and Slash were good friends, and I'm like, first I was like, Slash who? He's like, Slash, Slash, Guns N' Roses, Slash, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I didn't know who Guns N' Roses really was. And to someone hummed the song because I remember in the Marine Corps, a lot of the rock and the country guys were playing it. This is the guys on the truth. This is how it went. This is how it went. And so he's like, well, he's upset because he said in the back room, you didn't call him up. Well, I know what it feels like not to be called up. I didn't know what it means like not to be called up and you're a multimillionaire. You got one of the biggest band
Right.
names in the world. But so I yelled at Chuck. I was like, Chuck, I don't know these people. If it was Mahalia Jackson or Shirley Caesar or the Winans or somebody like that, the gospel world, I would know them. Other
Right.
than these R&B people, these rock people, I don't know them from flies on the wall. So it's not even disrespect. I just treat everyone the same way. I said it's your job when you see these people and you know them to let me know.
Oh,
We would get them up. So the next week, Slash comes back and he brings with him, and I knew this guy because I watched the movies. He brings with him Jim Carrey.
Oh, he did.
So the place is packed. There's a bunch of big name people in there. So Slash is on stage playing. There's me, Slash. There's a guy named Jadina. I want to say Gary Malaber and Teddy Zigzag, who is also the keyboard player for Guns N' Roses. He's also the keyboard player for Carole King. He's now with my buddy Walter Trout. So
Oh, yeah.
Teddy's on the keys, and I don't know if it was Slash or Chuck. Somebody said Jim Carrey want to sing, and I was like, I don't care, but it's got to be blues. And I'm like, Jim Carrey. I've been watching this what do you call that? What's that show? In Living Color, whatever. And I'm like, this cat don't know no blues, blah blah. So I don't know if they rehearsed or what, but he gets up there and he's him and Slash on them. They break into Old Black Betty.
They
And I'm
did.
telling you, he sang the heck out of that old Black Betty, Bama Lamb, Black Baby had a girl, Bama Lamb. He sang the heck out of it. I was shocked. I just stood there, you know. Mind you, again, this place only holds like 90 some odd people. By now, every Tuesday, there's a 45-minute hour wait at the door, and there's probably 150 people. We've taken out all the chairs and table. People sit on the floor, Indian style, at this little blues club right there on it's right across from the rails there on that Ventura Boulevard. Right there going toward the anyway. I can't remember where they changed it to the story now, but yeah, so many unbelievable musicians and whatnot. And so one night I was playing with basically Stevie Wonder's band. Again, didn't know who they were. Nate Watts, blah 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 blah. Don't know 'em. I don't know them. I know the music. I don't know them. And so they came to me after the show and was like, "Hey man, you ever do catalog work and stuff?" And I was like, "I don't know what catalog work is, but what do you need me to do?" Like, well, we got a couple commercials that we do commercials and stuff, and we need singers, and won't you come up to the studio and blah blah. So next thing you know, I'm up at the studio doing. I did like one or two songs that they put in commercials. They paid me to do it, and I'm like, wow, I'm doing commercials. Then next thing you know, I'm doing a commercial for McDonald's. I'm doing a commercial for Jim Beam Cadillac. I wind up doing songs. I have songs on two different episodes of True Blood, two episodes of Person of Interest. Wound up doing the theme song for the Joe Brown Show. Uh, Paramount came and I wound up doing the theme song for this movie that they put out called Island City with Andy Garcia. And if you go back and look that up, you'll hear me singing and all. Wind up doing some stuff for people in. I hope was that my ears recording? Hope not. Wound up doing some stuff for Japanese commercials and all this stuff and commercials in France for Renault and Toyota. So I've done all these commercials and all, but again, nobody knows me. One night, I'm in a place called the Baked Potato. I'm not familiar with any of these places in LA.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Baked Potato?
I've heard of it, but I've never been there.
It's smaller than Cozy's. I mean, you can get about 60 people in there, but it's
Yeah.
world famous. It's
Yeah.
world famous.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in
It's
the
well
baked, I'm in the Baked Potato with Chuck, and uh, these guys. I had been out back, and my wife is with me, so she can corroborate all this. I'm not making this stuff up. This is just the way it was.
done.
I'm out back. This guy is leaning on this red Ferrari, and I had been talking to him out back, and later found out that was Richie Sambora. He and I were just kicking it. We just, you know, and I go in and Chuck like, come on, I signed you to play. These guys gonna let you play with them. You need to go up there and play with them. And I'm like, I'm up there playing with them. And again, they sound like Australian to me. I thought they was Australian or English or something. I don't know. So, but we doing some blues and we had a good time. So my wife and I walking back to my car. At that time, I don't know if I had my cigar, if I was smoking the cigars or not, but I walked back into my car. We got a little Toyota. We had a little Toyota for a run. We get in the car. And my wife's like, baby, you have no idea who you just played with, right? I'm like, no, I said, they were pretty good. I mean, they're all right. And I'm like, well, who were they? She said, baby, that was Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And I was like, so who is Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
Like a bomber.
Literally, I wish she was in here so she know that I'm not lying to you. I'm not making this stuff up. And I'm like, well,
Who are they?
I don't know who they are. I don't know. I'm in LA. I just treat everybody the same.
The
I don't know
same.
who everybody is. I treat everybody, so I treat people like I would treat anyone that I meet. I just treat people with. I always treat people with respect and honor until you show me a reason not to give you respect and honor. So it was my greatest ally, my greatest weapon, making it into LA, and that was because of the way my grandmother raised me. But I had all these amazing people that I met that I just treated them. Me and Faison Love sitting back there drinking cognac together. I used to get the girl. My drummer always remind me. The woman, she ran for governor of California, but she's a big porn star. I think it was Mary Carey. She looked like Mariah Carey, but even bigger. Uh,
Chest.
and
Yeah.
yes, and she would. I would sit out front at the club, when I wasn't on stage or when I wasn't MCing, smoke my cigar, and talking to people outside. And she would always come and sit on my lap. And one time, this guy, Lavelle Jones, who wound up being my drummer, the first time he ever come, he always said, "I remember coming, and you had this blood. I thought it was Mariah Carey, and blah blah blah, sitting on your lap. You smoking this huge cigar." And I was like, "Yeah, it's the way that it went, And
You
that
you've
was
had
my
a
better
hoot.
inroad, huh?
You've had a hoot. You really
Well,
have.
one more story, and then I'm gonna shut up and you can ask a question because I get diarrhea of the mouth. One more story. My first band in LA, after I got done with all that, my first band in LA, it's a three-piece band. I got invited to play with these guys. And so we played this little place. We played a couple of little bit of shows. We wound up on doing like 5 or 6 shows. And there's always these little places, but I found out later these little places are like have been around since the 60s and had all these unbelievable names. So we're at this little place called the Liquid Kitty. I always remember that. My first gig in LA outside of the club. And all of a sudden, all these actresses and actors and stuff are showing up,
Yeah,
along with regular people. At least I call them regular people. But a few the TV people I kind of recognize because I saw them on TV or movies.
right.
So uh, uh, we're doing the show and whatnot, and Albino Bennett at that time he was still with he left LTD. He may have still been with Dave Mason at that time. Anyway, Albino shows up, the drummer, friend of mine. I know him from the club, so I know Albino now. I can recognize his face. I know who he is. We're talking, and I'm like, and Albino's there. But so then I'm like, man, what the heck is going on? Albino's like, what you mean? I mean, look at all these big wigs, the Phantoms and the Mercedes and all this stuff pulled up. I'm driving at that time, I think I had my old Cadillac, yeah. Because I had my truck had been repossessed. I had an old Cadillac.
Yeah.
So that I bought cash for. And so I'm standing there and backstage. And so Albino's like, the band, man. And I'm like, yeah, they're pretty good. We had a couple rehearsals. They all right. Albino just looked at me like, you know who you playing with? I'm like, yeah. But he's like, no, do you know who you playing with? And I'm like, not really. So we do the gig, and it's great. And Albino's laughing. Albino's a couple of the big musicians are there. I go home. My wife Googled the cats I'm playing with. So remember, I've been with these guys for a month. I don't even, I
You
don't.
don't know who they are.
I'm the singer. That's all I know. I'm singing. Treat everybody like gold. So the guitar player wasn't really famous. His name was Adam Stark, but he wound up being famous later because he was one of the guys, I guess, VP or helped start Pixar.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bass player was Gerald Johnson, the original bass player from the Steve Miller Band, the black man with the upside down left-handed bass, the guy who helped write Space Cowboy and all that.
Right.
That was the bass player. The
Right.
drummer is the legendary James Gatson.
Really?
The James Gatson, who's a friend of mine. I call him Mr. Gatson. He always called me Sugar Booger. But we did a lot of shows together. That it's a 3-piece band, and then me singing. That was the band. It was called the Invitation All Stars, and my first 6 shows in LA paying shows, and my first gigs with a band was with the Invitation All Stars with Gerald Johnson, James Gasson, Adam Stark, Sugaray Rayford. That was the band.
And you didn't even know who you were rubbing shoulders with.
When I got to Gerald, I was like, okay. But when Pam, when she brought up James and like the Wikipedia came up and you hear it going, And I'm like, what the? And we start looking, and you start seeing the names and the accolades, and I'm just like, from that day forward, I always call him Mr. Gasson. I mean, I knew something was different because when we pulled up for him to play, he pulled up in this really nice Cadillac, and I was out there because I was going to help him bring his drums in. And he's like, "Oh no, 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 they'll be here in a minute." I'm like, "Okay." And then all of a sudden, this big truck pulled up from SIR, and I'm an ex drummer, so I know drums. SIR pulls up, four guys jump out, and they're basically bringing in this $20,000 drum set with gold hardware and gold this and that and the other. And they're like, where we set? They're like, over there. And they go in, they set up this kit. That should have told me something right there that, you know, because Mr. Gasson has cartage for life. You know, I
Yeah.
don't think they do that anymore, but he has cartage from life. For life. And so he play local gigs. He called them. He don't bring a set. They bring a brand new set down, tune it up for him, set it up. When he get done, they come back, they pick it up, bring it down, take it away.
Take it home with them.
So anyway,
Oh, God. You got some great stories. You really
oh
do.
yeah, you don't know the half of the
Half of it,
story.
right?
I've been, I've been very blessed and very lucky,
You
and I
have.
think that it has to do with people say, "Oh, you talent and all this." I say, "No, everybody. There's so many people that have talent, but I think it's the way that you treat people." And I think that means more than as my grandma said, it doesn't matter how talented you get. Sometimes your attitude and your problem will outweigh your talent. Don't be one of those people.
I think your grandmother loved you very much. No
I think
question.
my grandma just didn't play.
That's right.
But,
Oh,
but
God. My special guest today is Sugaray Rayford, and he's got a brand new album out. It is just an amazing, my jaw dropped when I listened to this, called Somebody Save Me, that was nominated for a Grammy Award. He's got a who's who of musicians and artists on this album. Um, I can't tell you how much I love this album. There's just shades of Otis Redding, Solomon Burke, to some degree Levi Stubbs, uh, all of them in there. And I mean, I'm 20 years older than you, so I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And the minute I heard this, I was just like stunned that you have your own voice, though. You have this beautiful, beautiful voice, and but you've gathered some great talent along with it. And I had to laugh because when I looked down through your latest list on the album, I saw the guitar player there, Alistair Green.
yeah,
And, Alistair, I've been playing the music from his new album on my show, and he recorded probably the best spot any artist has recorded for me. He's a really nice guy.
he really really is. And when I had to let Gino go, and I've used Gino off and on sparingly, but he's no longer really the guitarist in the band.
Right,
Uh, I was looking for somebody who could really really tour. And I went through this list. Once the word got out, I was shocked how many guys wanted to play with me. I was like, really? Yeah, okay. And so when Allison came up, and Allison like he was really enthusiastic, and so we did I'm old school. I'm one of those type of band leaders that I like the musicians to really play.
right,
I'm not asking you to copy a song 100%. There is a melody, but you have to find your way of playing that melody and then see if that works for me, if it moves me. And Alistair came in, and I threw him to the sharks with the band, the full band. And my band is one of those bands that, we always say, don't step up if you can't keep up.
right.
And what we mean by that
Good.
is we have one of the most musically and high energy shows that you can find, and it's like that. There have been times when we play 4 hours straight with no break on the show. If we headline, we just play because we enjoy playing. And a lot of people don't have that second and third gear, and we had to find someone that we can get along with and who had that second and third gear. And Alistair came in beyond pro. When you're in a audition situation, and I threw a couple songs at him. He knew them, and he started suggesting songs from 4 albums ago, or stuff that we do that's not recorded. And the guy's done his homework, and the guy's serious about being there.
Oh,
And
he's an amazing guitar player. Yeah,
he was with me for a year,
yeah.
and the only reason he's not with me, at the end of the year, he told me, he said, "Listen, Sugar, Tab Benoit wants to help me. He's got a label, and he wants to help me put out my solo album. And I looked at him. I told him, man, listen, anytime you can get somebody who's willing to spend their money to promote you, you got to
Take
do
it.
it. You,
You got to do
you,
it.
you can't stand back and be like, what if, what if? I say, I appreciate you being here. There's always a seat for you if you want it, but you need to go and try this and see what happens.
I
So,
understand. I agree with you.
yeah,
My special guest today, Sugaray Rayford, and I got to point out that they've got to go to your website, sugarrayrayford.com, and watch
thank you.
that new video that's on there, the Revelator. Oh God, is
Uh,
that hilarious? That is just the song I played at the beginning of the show today. But the your video is wonderful on there. That woman is terrific. She,
she
she,
is. I can't remember her name right now because it came together in like a few seconds. You know, it's like I got a call from Record said we need a video, and you know, at that time we didn't have a lot of money, so I knew people, Susan Jones, and I can't think of her husband, but Mr. Jones will say for now. You know, they're friends of mine that again, this is what happens in LA. I met them back when I was running the coaches. You know, they've won many, you have to go look them up. They won many awards at the Sundance Film Festival. They do movies.
I see.
They're big. You know, to get videos from them, they don't even do really video. They had done stuff for MTV back in the day. They only do movies and stuff now, but they're friends of mine. And I called him. I was in my car coming from Arizona, driving to LA. In 36 hours, I need to come up with a video. I called Susan. I said, Susan, I need a video. I don't have a lot of money. You know, I'm a poor black man. I'm such and such and such. Please help me out. Yo, I use the race card, brother. I use the race card. I was like, please help me out. And Susan said, well, when are you getting here? I said, I'll be there in like 7 hours. She's like, okay. She hangs up. She called me back 40 minutes later. Here's the address. Drive to this address. We drive there. She's got one camera set up. Why can't I think of her husband's name? Is very different. But and he's big time.
Yeah.
He loves me. They're the sweetest people. She's shot every album cover that I've ever done. All the album covers you see that me on the front, Susan has shot those. So they had found this place because they had done a video there for Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre 2 weeks earlier. So they already knew the guy. They got it for a song. They called this lady, Sally, I think her name is. I have to go back and please forgive me. You have to read it because I only saw that one day for that shoot that lasted actually 4 hours and it was out. So I drove from Arizona. We got there. We shot the video. They made up the storyline, found the location, all this within 4 hours. We shot the video. I drove back to Arizona, and then 2 weeks later, we have that video you saw there, and they
Well,
did it for me for a price that I won't even quote on this thing that costs yeah,
it's
because
stupid.
everybody knows because but again, it's because you treat people with respect and
Right.
dignity, and you
Right.
never know what people would do for you. And I think considering that it's a video that wound up coming alive on the way driving from Arizona to LA, and literally by the time I got to LA, we shot it and then I turned around and drove back. It's very remarkable.
They've got to see it. It's called The Revelator, and it's on your website at sugarrayrayford.com. The new album is called Somebody Save Me.
Somebody save me.
Yes. And my special guest today has been Sugar Ray Rayford. Why don't I go out with another song from the brand new album? Let's do Sometimes You Get the Bear. Sometimes the bear gets you. Thank you so
You can't
much,
say
Sugar Ray. And when COVID is over and you're touring and you're driving up between Seattle and Vancouver, would you please stop and come in the station? I would love to have you come in and meet you in person. It'd be an absolute pleasure and an honor. Thanks again so much for joining me today.
well, Gregory, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much, and I love to. Matter of fact, we were supposed to be up there for the NIMO, and my old keyboard player, who had a stroke a while back, who used to be with me, Ike Turner and Ravi Shankar. He actually lives in what is it, Vancouver, Washington, right in that area now. And his name is
Okay.
Leo Dumbecki. So you want to tell some stories? He's got some great stories. Look him up, Leo Dumbecki.
We'll bring you both in. How's that? Sounds good. Thanks again so much and best to you. Thanks again. Take
Let
care.
me just say, as I always leave every night, thank you very much for being here. And for God's sakes, folks, let's be good to one another. Peace.